Welcome back to Recap It. Today we are going to recap a 2007 thriller/mystery movie titled Disturbia. When a teenager is placed under house arrest, he becomes depressed and begins spying on his neighbors in an attempt to spice up his life. This, however, leads him to witness the escape of a serial killer. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to this channel. Now without wasting any further time, let's begin, shall we? The film begins with Cale Brecht, a teen, and his father, Daniel, fishing together. Cale phones his mother, Julie Brecht, on the way home and brags about how many fish they've caught. "Hope you guys didn't stop and buy fish like the last time," she told him. At the same time, the vehicle in front of them accelerates, leading them to collide with a parked vehicle. As they attempted to exit their vehicle, another vehicle collided with them, killing Daniel. Cale remains in a continuous condition of depression and lifelessness for a year. Señor Gutierrez, his Spanish teacher, chastises him for dozing during class near the conclusion of the year. When the teacher asks Cale what he thinks his father would say if he could see him right now, Cale punches him in the face and attacks him. For this incident, which could have resulted in a year in a juvenile prison center under normal circumstances, he is sentenced to 3 months of house arrest with an ankle monitor and a proximity sensor, which prevents him from leaving the confines of his home and yard. Officer Gutierrez, the teacher's pompous cousin, is one of the police officers who is watching him. Initially, he fills his ennui by playing video games, eating junk food, and having unclean clothing all over the house, prompting his mother to cancel his iTunes Music Store and Xbox Live subscriptions, as well as disconnect the power cable to his television. She then informed him that he needed to start pitching in more around the house. Cale was looking out his window one day when he noticed a girl and her parents moving in next door. Cale opened the door at the exact moment the doorbell rang and saw a blazing paper bag. He tried outing it, which resulted in him being covered in dog feces. It turns out that he is the victim of a hoax perpetrated by a group of boys. Cale decides to chase them, which leads him outside his yard's bounds. The cops arrived, relishing the opportunity to humiliate and ridicule Cale in front of his neighbors. His idleness drives him to look around the neighborhood. When Cale noticed the girl on her way home, he feigned he couldn't get to his mail. She aided him, he introduced himself, they conversed, and she informed him her name, Ashley, before leaving. Later that night, Cale suspects his next-door neighbor, Robert Turner, who arrives in a 1967 Ford Mustang with a dented fender, matching the description given in a news broadcast about an errant serial murderer from Austin, Texas. Cale and his best friend Ronnie start watching Ashley as she swims in the pool. When Ronnie's binoculars collide with the window, she is alerted to their snooping. Ashley discovers Cale and Ronnie spying, confronts them, and joins the duo in investigating Turner. Turner brings home a date and offers her wine later that night, and she dances for Turner while Cale and Ashley look on. After Ashley has to leave for the night, Cale returns to his room and notices Turner's date, who appears to be being chased by Turner, in a distressed state. To obtain a better perspective, Cale uses his binoculars, but inadvertently activates his video camera flash, revealing Cale spying to Turner. Cale pans back to Turner's house after Turner shuts out his lights, and Turner is looking right at Cale through the glass. After hiding, Cale sees Turner's date leave, and the next morning, when he walks into his kitchen, he is horrified to see Turner and his mother flirting. They had run into each other earlier at the grocery store. Turner makes threats to Cale before he leaves, which Julie misses. Ashley is throwing a party later that night. Cale is enraged that Ashley is being pursued by other teenage boys at the party, and he decides to destroy it by playing Minnie Riperton's song out his window. She approaches him and confronts him. Cale expresses his undying love for her. Ashley and Cale start kissing because they are fascinated by what Cale has said. Then, in a scenario that neither teen notices, blood splatters across Turner's window. Turner is later seen dragging a big bag to his garage, which Ashley alleges has blood on it, while Cale and Ashley look on. While Ashley keeps an eye on Turner at the store, Cale sends Ronnie to break into another car that belongs to Turner and has the garage code in it. Ronnie obtains the garage code at the same moment as Ashley loses track of Turner due to distraction. As Ashley is preparing to leave the parking lot, Turner stands in front of her car and smashes into it. Turner is composed and assures Ashley that all he wants is some solitude, implying that if she continues to follow him, she will be harmed. Cale continues to spy on Turner later that night, leaving messages on Ronnie's phone. Ronnie realizes he left his phone in Turner's car and makes an effort to retrieve it. Ronnie finds his phone, along with a sack, in Turner's garage with a video camera, and says he can see hair in addition to blood, leading the two of them to believe it contains a human body. Ronnie hides in the home as the garage door is suddenly shut, and Cale tries to rescue him, inadvertently alerting the authorities to the breach of his house arrest. When the cops arrive, they conduct a check of the house and discover that Ronnie is nowhere to be found. The sack contains the remnants of a deer that Turner had hit on the freeway, according to a search of the garage. Ronnie is presumed killed by Cale, however it is subsequently discovered that he escaped uninjured, fearing being caught if he stayed, and admitted to breaking into the house. Julie, Cale's mother, then walks across the street to speak with Turner in the hopes of persuading him not to press charges. Cale watches Ronnie's tape while she is there, which he had left on the entire time he was fleeing Turner's house. In his haste to finish the tape, Ronnie accidentally films something hidden behind an air vent, which Cale zooms in to see. It appears to be a clear bag containing something. He zooms in even closer and sees what appears to be the body of a little girl. Turner knocks Julie unconscious at the same time. Turner then enters Cale's home and uses an aluminum baseball bat to strike Ronnie in the head. He then pursues Cale, who tries to call the cops by unplugging his proximity sensor, then dashes outside to activate his ankle monitor, but ultimately fails to flee. Turner knocks him out and uses duct tape to wrap his limbs together as well as his lips shut. Turner then explains his plan to frame Cale for the murders of his mother as a result of his grief over his father's death, and Ronnie for the murder of his mother as a result of his irritation about going out with Ashley, before dying himself. Turner enters Cale's room as he is composing a suicide letter to Ashley, startling the killer. Turner is knocked down by Cale, giving him and Ashley a chance to flee. They leap from Cale's window and land in Ashley's pool, alerting the authorities to Cale's escape. While Cale goes to look for his mother in Turner's house with a pair of garden shears, Ashley proceeds to call the cops. Cale discovers credentials belonging to Turner's previous victim, the red-headed club girl, as well as a wig in a room that resembles an operating theater, implying that Turner wore the wig and was the one Cale observed leaving the house. Officer Gutierrez arrives on the scene hoping to charge Cale with breaking and entering, but Turner slips up behind him and breaks his neck, killing him. When Cale goes down to the house's basement, he falls through the floor and ends up floating in a pool with multiple dead bodies in varying stages of rotting. After climbing out, he discovers his mother chained and gagged beneath the foundation. Turner arrives from behind Julie and tries to keep Cale and his mother quiet. Turner is stabbed in the leg by Julie, giving Cale enough time to kill him with the pair of gardening shears. The police come as Cale and Julie exit the garage, and their ordeal with Turner is done. The next scene shows Cale getting his ankle monitor removed and being released from house arrest for excellent behavior in his kitchen. It then depicts Cale exacting vengeance on the youngsters who left a bag of flaming dog poo on his porch, prompting him to flee his house arrest while following them, and water-bombed him the night Ashley's party was held. He's watching them with Ashley this time and pretending to be with their satellite TV provider. He contacts their mother and says someone is watching adult movies in their room. Their mother runs into their room and discovers the boys, ensuring Cale's vengeance, but he goes on to explain that that was only his first strike and that he plans for more. Finally, Ashley and Cale are making out on a sofa when they are interrupted by Ronnie, who is alright save for a black eye, who is filming them with the intention of uploading the footage to YouTube. Despite this, they exhibit no signs of irritation other than Cale's half-hearted middle finger at Ronnie. And this is where movie comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed it, as always until next time.